My primary focus as a new member of Congress in the 9th District would be to introduce legislation to abolish ICE. We saw that Donald Trump sent ICE into Evanston and literally at the corner of Asbury and Oakton, violated Evanstonians, threw people to the ground, punched someone in the head several times, and I can't have a reformist mindset on ICE after what we saw in Evanston. And that particular location is just blocks from where my brother lives, where my dad, who is an Ethiopian asylum seeker, has lived for 30 years, as well as my stepmother. And so on day one, in the first 10 days, I have said publicly that I will be introducing legislation to abolish ICE, and that is exactly what I intend to do. I absolutely favor a guaranteed monthly income for Americans. You know, we are seeing a scenario right now where the majority of people in our country cannot live on the wages that they're making, whether we're talking about our gig workers who are our baristas at Starbucks, who I've been proud to stand with in solidarity, who just want a fair contract where the CEO of Starbucks is making $6,666 times more than the average barista. That is a travesty of our democracy. I also believe that we should have universal basic income in America. We should have a program across the country that guarantees at least $500 a month for Americans so that they can supplement the minimum wage that hasn't been raised in 20 years in this country, which also is a travesty. And the excessive predatory behavior of financial institutions and banks that continue to take advantage of average Americans, depleting their retirement accounts, depleting their healthcare benefits, while rich CEOs continue to make skyrocketing profits, and executive compensation is through the roof and at the highest that we've ever seen. Yes, unequivocally, the House should impeach Donald Trump. I gotta say it louder for the folks in the back. Listen, Donald Trump should have been impeached in his first term. And when I say he should have been impeached, he should have been impeached and he should have been convicted, because he has consistently broken the law in his first term and now in our second term. And that the Republicans in Congress were too chicken shit to move on that when he invaded our Capitol on January 6th and destroyed this U.S. Senate chamber with people hanging from the roofs, traumatizing the young staff there. Listen, I was a staffer on Capitol Hill. I remember what it felt like to be able to work at the Capitol, and I think about those young people who were so visibly shaken on that day, and the person whose life was lost. Donald Trump should be impeached. There is no equivocation on this issue for me. If I get the Congress to represent the 9th District, I am bringing forward articles of impeachment against this man, because he has gotten us involved in a forever war, an illegal war in Venezuela that was not authorized by Congress. He has deployed ICE into communities all across our country without the authorization of Congress, illegally detaining Americans and immigrants. And so it has to stop. This man has got to go, and we have got to impeach Donald Trump and vote to convict. So in 2027 and 2028, the Democrats are going to need to talk to the working class. This is why Donald Trump has been able to not only be in the White House for 2 terms, but let's be honest, Donald Trump has a strong man's grip on the United States Senate right now and the U.S. House of Representatives. There are members in Congress that are too afraid to resist Donald Trump, even though they know that he is a lawless criminal. And so the problem is that the people that are voting for those people are working class people who feel checked out. They feel like the Democrats are not speaking to their day-to-day economic issues. Listen, I grew up in public housing. My first job was actually in Evanston at a call center when I was 16 years old. I worked in the office at 820 West Davis, right next to, not coincidentally, right next to Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky's office, where I earned my first paychecks. And the thing is, there are a lot of young people in our country that can't even have that opportunity. And so we need Democrats who speak to the economic conditions of the people, who understand what is happening with single parents who are having to make undignified choices like my mother did between whether they can pay the rent or get health care for their kiddos and their families. And when Democrats start speaking to those issues, I think that we will see a groundswell of Democrats being elected around the country, where we will take back Congress and we will take back the White House, and that will not happen until we make good on that. Yeah, I mean, the way that we get Democrats back at the presidential level and all levels is we got to start talking to young people about what it means to graduate from college and have $50,000 in student loans. I support canceling student loan debt because I see the burden that places on so many young people in our country who have to put off starting a family or can't buy their first home. We need to be speaking to the material conditions of low and working class people all across this country who are being union busted on. They can't survive on the wages that they're making. We need to be speaking to the disaffected Americans who are in red and purple states right now, where manufacturing has disappeared, in the Rust Belt, where they can't find work, where they can't find benefits, and where unfortunately Republicans take advantage of that. They take advantage of that by pointing to communities like ours and saying it's their fault why this is happening, and vote for me so I can stick it to people that live in Evanston and Rogers Park. We know better. And so we got to make sure that we're putting people in power who can speak to the economic struggles of people, not just here in our district, but all around the country, so that we can carry the day and we can win the majorities and we can win back the White House and we can turn this chapter on this dark history that we all have been living through since 2017. I mean, I think that the first thing that we need to do is, look, Evanston has a vibrant Black and brown immigrant community, and I literally am a part of the Black immigrant community in Evanston, and we know that that is a long-standing community in Evanston, and so we need to be introducing policies that, first of all, abolish ICE so that our communities don't feel vulnerable and targeted. I have an uncle who's Ethiopian who lives in Evanston that will not leave his apartment without a passport. We can do better than this. And so it means that I, as a member of Congress, would be moving to abolish ICE, would be moving to defund an agency, the ICE agency, which $600 million is going into private detention centers right now in Michigan and other parts of our country where people are being warehoused. We need to be putting that money back into immigrant serving organizations that can help our communities access housing, healthcare, access good schools, and all the things that immigrants come to this country to get, just like my dad did. I think it means speaking to the issues that young people experience, where they don't feel safe or they don't feel appreciated in their communities, because young people can see through BS and they know if the people in power understand what they're going through. We got to be speaking to mental health. There's a mental health crisis right now with young people across our country, and it hits young Black and brown immigrant youth twice as hard as it does those that are American, because they have a whole other set of things about them, like the language they speak or their family's culture, that makes them a target. And we need people in power that understand that and know what it feels like to be, when I was 14 years old, I wore an African outfit to school, and I remember somebody calling me a sissy. Right? And I don't remember anybody in power understanding that or speaking to that. And that's the generation that we have now that is coming of age. And we need people in positions of power that can speak to that. And that's how we start to win back those communities. I just want everybody to know that in the Illinois State Senate, I blazed a trail. I ran against the establishment. I became a state senator in 2021, being sworn in as the first openly gay and first Ethiopian American to ever serve in the Illinois Senate. And in that body, folks thought that it was a fluke, but we proved them wrong, because we've passed 50 bills into law in 4.5 years. Legislation canceling medical debt for almost 400,000 people in Illinois. Legislation that creates the new child tax credit. Legislation that bans hair discrimination against Black youth in our schools. Legislation that gets forever chemicals out of our water supplies. That is the work, and I'm proud of the work that I've been able to do in the state Senate. And I am proud to be running for Congress to build on that work at the national level, to be an effective legislator who has real experience and understands how to fight the good fight, who knows how to show up at the rallies and be a strong voice with our communities, but can also get in those rooms with those committee chairmen that have been there for decades and can go toe-to-toe with them and can out-argue them and outmaneuver them, and can go into the weeds on the budgets and can make things happen for our communities, whether we're talking about housing for all or Medicare for all, or protecting our environment and going and doing Green New Deal 2.0, and all the things that it's going to take to really move us out of the dark chapter that we've been in for the last several years.